Sunday primetime kickoff, 4:30. Spurs at home to West Ham, London derby. We'll take a look at the betting as we currently have at matchbook.com. Tottenham Hotspur can be backed at 1.86. West Ham available 4.8, and the draw is 3.8. Both teams to score, yes. Favoured in that market at around 1.79. No is 2.1. The Asian handicap line, West Ham are getting half a goal started over, even money 2.06. And the total is 2.5, shaded a good bit towards the over. So, Adrian, over to you on this one. Look, you ended up calling Tottenham right. I thought at 1-0 down, they would come out of their shell and maybe try and get 2-3 goals. But that midfield is a problem for them at the moment.
Yeah, look, they weren't awful in the game against Milan. They probably deserved something out of it. But, yeah, it's just a bang. It's two pretty bang average teams, wasn't it? Going head to head, they can still go through. Obviously, the Conte news is a real shame for them and for him, that he's not quite well enough to come back from Italy. That he needs to recuperate for a little bit longer. It's a sensible measure, isn't it? He's got to look after his long-term health. But yeah, the assistant did okay before, didn't he? When he took them for the City game, and I see it being another low-scoring affair, I've got to say. Spurs always have the capability, don't they, to score multiple goals with Kane, Son and Kulusevski. But it might not be the type of match that they enjoy. They like it, of course, when opponents come at them, leave a little bit of space for them on the counter. But I don't think David Moyes is going to do that. It's not his way, is it? I think when West Ham were flying last season, he was a bit bolder. But he's reverted to type this time around. They've been pretty cautious, particularly on the road. 8 of West Ham's 11 away games have gone under 2.5 goals, and they've only scored seven times on the road this season. It's the third fewest. But interestingly, they don't concede very many either, West Ham, away from the London Stadium. They're only letting 14, and that puts them 5th in terms of the best records for goals conceded on the road. So yeah, they're good at keeping it tight, and I think they can frustrate Spurs here. Will they offer enough of a goal threat? That's the big question mark, I guess. Spurs dried up a bit, haven't they? I think they've scored 3 goals in their last 3 Premier League games. They blanked in Milan. So yeah, I don't see this being a thriller. I think Spurs will probably edge it. 1-0, 2-0 potentially. But yeah, if you go under 2.5, you cover a lot of scorelines, don't you? You cover the goalless draw, 1-0 either way, 2-0. So yeah, 1 apiece. So yeah, under 2.5 for me is where I see this game going.
Yeah, Mark, I'd say you're in agreement. Even the way Adrian mentioned tactically, I think West Ham are going to sit in a lot, and I think Tottenham could be frustrated for long spells.
Yeah, and I think the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium supporters will be, obviously demanding, but will easily get frustrated if the performance matches what we've seen recently. Which, I just think when you believe Spurs are starting to turn a corner, they go and chuck in those performances against Leicester and then Milan in midweek. And I know there was players missing in both. They looked a ramshackle defensively against Leicester without Romero and Bentancur, and then against Milan, Skip and Sarr in central midfield. I actually thought Sarr played pretty well considering, but the whole team's demeanour and their approach just didn't feel right. They looked passive, they looked lifeless, jaded, lethargic, or however you wanted to sort of describe them, just lacking enthusiasm. The chance creation and supply line to the forward line was non-existent, and Milan show that they can raise themselves for a big Champions League night at San Siro, and I thought Spurs would be similar, particularly after falling behind, but just never really happened for them. And it's very hard to read them at the minute because, whilst they were superb in beating Manchester City, they're obviously not going to be able to field that same 11 this time around. That was only their second win in 6 at home, the last being Leeds before the World Cup, which was incredibly scrappy and scratchy. They've won back-to-back games once since mid-October in the Premier League, 3 clean sheets in 13. They're not scoring goals fluently, as Adrian says as well. But can you back West Ham with confidence here? And this is a West Ham team with only 5 Premier League wins to their name all season, only 1 of which was achieved away. They've lost 7 of 11 on their travels. They've only kept 4 clean sheets all season as well. So we know they've underachieved based on the underlying process, but we're 22 games deep now for West Ham, and it's hard to be too positive about them. And also their away record against big clubs as well, which is pretty, it's not far off disastrous. Since the start of last season, 0 wins, 2 draws and 12 defeats top half teams. So, yeah, I plumped for the unders as well. 45% win rate in Spurs home games, but this is mainly focused on West Ham, who have churned out 17 under 2.5 goal winners from 22 Premier League games this season, with matches averaging just 2.09 goals. As Adrian says, 8 of 11 away, under 1.91 goals per game on average away from home. They've only once conceded 3 goals or more in a game, though, but they've scored 2 goals or more themselves on just 5 occasions. So, yeah, I think it's quite an easy selection considering its odds against.
Yeah, absolutely. And an agreement on the podcast, which is always good, guys. We'll lock in under 2.5 goals at 2.06.